My name is Joanna, and this is my last day at the Moscow clinic. And I wanted to say something about what brought me here, because I looked online a lot. I suffer from multiple sclerosis. I was diagnosed in 2011, and I found in the UK, where I'm from, that the treatments available are really only, I have regular MRI tests, scans, and then the offer of disease-modifying drugs, which I wasn't really that comfortable to take, because I'm keen on natural treatments, and I'd been lucky for a long time in that my symptoms weren't too bad. So I didn't take those drugs. But then for me, about maybe 10, 11 months ago, my symptoms got worse. So my right leg became quite spastic, very hard for me to walk on that, and my energy levels kept dropping. So I started to feel I really had to do something. And I did a lot of looking around and talking to my doctor. But again, from them, there was nothing apart from the disease-modifying drugs. But looking online, I started to learn about stem cell therapy. And then I thought, great, I'll find somewhere in the UK that I can go to and have this therapy. And what I understood about it was, I'd heard a little bit in the press actually in the UK, where they'd use stem cell therapy, but also in conjunction with chemotherapy. And again, I didn't like the idea of having my immune system destroyed. And feeling not so well, I felt that's the last thing I needed. I wanted to try and improve my own system, not to destroy it. Although there were some good results with people having that form of stem cell therapy. But again, only a very small percentage of people in the UK may be offered that. It's not a standard treatment. But looking around, I thought, well, I'll try and find something along those lines in the UK, but I couldn't find anything. And then through looking more, I found some research on stem cells where the treatment does not also have to include chemotherapy. And again, I looked in the UK, couldn't find anything, but found the Swiss Medica Clinic. And looking, they have some very good information which shows you exactly what form the treatment takes. And for me, I thought this looks good because there was no chemotherapy, and the testimonies from people are incredible. There are many people that have found a very 80% improvement in their symptoms, so it was very encouraging. I think one thing I found that was particularly powerful is that the combination of treatment, so it's not just taking stem cells from my own adipose tissue, from your fat tissue and bone marrow, but also using donor stem cells from umbilical blood and umbilical tissue. So that adds to the intensity of the results. So you're really having a sort of everything possible. So I decided to contact them, and very quickly I got in contact with Dr. Alexandra, who was very knowledgeable and could answer any questions I had. There was no pressure. She gave me time to digest the information, to think more, to contact her any time. I could email her. She called me directly, so we spoke in English, and that was very encouraging as well, very helpful. So on top of that, she suggested, if I wanted to, that I could contact an ex-patient who's also in the UK. She gave me a couple of names, but I decided to speak to Sean, who's based in the UK, and he was very, very helpful, and his experience was extremely positive, and he could answer all questions for me again. So as a person who'd only just started looking into this and didn't know much about it, and certainly didn't know much about Swiss Medica clinics, it was invaluable to have someone to contact who'd been through the treatment, and I could listen to his direct experience. So that really made my mind up actually, so thank you, Sean. Then within actually only I think 5 months, I got my visa for Russia, and came here. And there are other clinics that Swissmedica have. There's one in Belgrade, but the Moscow clinic had everything right for me, I think, for my illness, and the mixture of stem cell therapy. So that was really ideal for me. So I think something that I didn't find online that maybe would be helpful for people to know is actually I find this is a very holistic treatment. The approach here is very holistic. So the doctors consider how you feel, how you are you depressed, what's life like for you, and the food, what you're eating, and what other influences there are on you, on top of having the actual stem cell therapy. So when I arrived, I was met at the airport, driven to this Moscow clinic, which I think it happened to be heavy traffic, but it took us about an hour and a half, and then met by a doctor who manages the clinic, and explained. By the time I arrived, it was like the evening, but it was a warm welcome, and I settled in that night, and the next morning started to have blood taken to be tested. So, but I cannot express strongly enough that, and I've been in hospital in the UK for 3 weeks years ago, but my experience here, the care, the professionalism, it's so holistic. Everybody, all the doctors care, and I had an alarm that I can press, and a nurse would be in my room in seconds, and I've never had that in the UK. So it's a private clinic, but there is no lack of doctors and nurses to monitor you closely, and that's another thing. From the minute I got here, my blood pressure was taken, my bloods were analysed, and I was presented with the next, within a couple of days I think, with a very detailed analysis of my blood, looking at everything. Again, not something I would find in the UK. So that apart from the treatment itself, I was impressed with how much monitoring there is. So every day I would see not one doctor, I would see a professor, and a couple of other doctors would come into my room, ask me how I feel, take my blood pressure, tell me what the plan was for that day, and during the day as well I would speak to doctor, and alongside that a nurse is available 24/7. So you're extremely well monitored and cared for, and your food and everything. And not just that, it's the type of people that work here. I'm very moved, actually very struck by how caring and dedicated and professional they all are. So for me, it's been a really good experience, not just that I've had some treatment and it's made me feel more energized and I feel stronger, and I'm actually sorry to have to be going home today, so if I can find a way, I would like to come back just to see people, and there's certainly some people that I would like to stay in touch with. So my journey with the stem cell therapy has only really just started, and I hope to find more improvement as weeks and months go by, unless my body can generate those cells and they work to repair the cell damage that I have through this illness. But I would strongly recommend for anybody who's considering this type of treatment. I personally believe it's really the future of medicine. There's many possibilities where stem cells can be used. It's not just degenerative diseases like multiple sclerosis. It can be used for joint pains and diabetes and many other illnesses. So I think this is the way maybe the future is going. So, but yeah, I would strongly recommend, and just pick up the phone, email the clinic, and don't be afraid to ask any questions, and do your own research as well. Look at the testimonies, look at the Facebook page, and think for yourself, if it's something that might help you. So I hope you do, and you'll be satisfied.